We are going to tackle one of the biggest questions humanity has ever asked, but with a seriously modern twist: immortality. For ages it was just stuff you read about in myths. But what if that choice, the choice to live forever, was about to jump from the pages of science fiction into a very real science lab?
So, let's just kick things off with a classic thought experiment. Put yourself in this scene. You find a potion. It guarantees you'll live forever, you'll never get sick, you'll stay the age you are right now until the end of time. But, and this is a big but, the choice is permanent. No takebacks. So, do you drink it? I mean, really think about it for a second. What's your gut reaction?
And here's the kicker. Your answer, whether it's an immediate heck yes or a no way, it's not really about the potion at all. It's a mirror. It shows you everything about how you see the world, your fears, your hopes, and most importantly, how you perceive reality itself. Which brings us right to our first stop, the perception paradox. See, before we can even wrap our heads around something as massive as eternity, we gotta figure out how we understand, well, anything. How does this thing between our ears actually work?
We like to think our eyes and ears give us this perfect high-def picture of the world. But that's not what's happening at all. It's actually a super messy process of guesswork. Our senses are just feeding us all this fuzzy, noisy information, and our brain's job is to play detective, taking these clues and making its best guess about what's actually out there based on everything it already thinks is true. And that right there, that's why one person can see immortality as a gift and another sees it as a terrifying curse. They're just starting with totally different internal maps. The philosopher Alan Watts had this absolutely perfect, simple way of explaining this whole internal battle. You know that feeling, right? You've just locked the door, you're walking away, and then it hits you. Wait, did I turn off the stove? You know you were just there, you saw it, but that little seed of doubt starts to grow. So you go back, and of course it's off. Relief. But as you walk away for the second time, the doubt whispers again. But did I really see it right? Maybe I imagined it. If you give in and go back again, you're done. You're trapped. You are never leaving the house. That's the anxiety loop, and it all comes from not trusting your own basic nature, your own perception. And this gets to Watts's whole point. Just to be a functioning person, you have to start from a place of trust. You just have to. You have to trust your senses, trust your gut, trust your own nature just to get out the front door. And that's the foundation we've got to have before we can even think about tackling the really big questions.
Okay, so let's take that idea of trust and apply it to the ultimate test: immortality. Is it the greatest prize you could ever imagine, or is it the worst punishment possible? Well, as we're about to see, it really all depends on the glasses you're wearing.
When you boil it down, there are really two main ways people perceive immortality. On one hand, you have the curse, this endless, agonizing existence, driven by a deep fear and a hunger that can literally never be filled. And on the other hand, you have the blessing, a kind of spiritual evolution, where you let go and merge with something way, way bigger than yourself.
For a perfect picture of the curse, look no further than the tragic story of Abeloth from Star Wars. She was a mortal woman, surrounded by an immortal family. Her entire perception was clouded by this overwhelming fear of being left behind. So what does she do? She drinks from these forbidden wells of power to make herself immortal. And it worked, but it twisted her, corrupted her into this dark, monstrous thing. And that's the real tragedy. Her perception, her fear, literally warped her destiny into the exact thing she was trying to avoid. And if you want to see that curse taken to its absolute darkest extreme, there's Darth Nihilus. This guy wanted to survive so badly that he bound his own spirit to his mask. But in doing that, he basically stopped being a person. He became a void, a literal hole in the fabric of reality, driven by this bottomless hunger, just consuming planets to keep existing. Sure, he got a kind of immortality, but it was completely, utterly empty. But then, there's a totally different way of seeing it all, and it's summed up perfectly in the Jedi Code. There is no death, there is the Force. This isn't about avoiding an end. It's about seeing death as just a change, a transformation. The goal isn't to desperately cling to your little individual ego. It's to let it go and become one with the energy that connects everything. And hey, this isn't just some sci-fi fantasy idea. Philosophers have talked about this for ages. You have the idea of a universal consciousness that we're all just a small part of, or the theory that our bodies are just a shadow in matter, and our real consciousness exists in a higher dimension, totally untouched by death. They're all pointing to the same thing.
Real immortality isn't about your body lasting forever, it's about your awareness continuing on.
So these two clashing ideas, holding on for dear life versus letting go completely, are just perfectly captured by the philosophies of the Jedi and the Sith. And honestly, they give us an incredible lens for understanding this huge choice.
Right, so you have the Jedi, who are all about peace, compassion, and letting go of the ego. Then you have the Sith, who say, no, passion is strength, my will is everything. But then you get this incredible third voice, Kreia, and she looks at both of them and says they're both wrong. She argued that just blindly following any code, no matter how good it sounds, is a trap. It's a form of self-deception that makes you a slave to an idea. Real strength, she believed, comes from choosing for yourself, free from all that dogma.
And this is the moment where all this stuff, philosophy, perception, even Star Wars, comes crashing right into our world, right now.
Because that choice we've been talking about, between these two very different kinds of immortality, it's not a thought experiment anymore. That potion we imagined, people are trying to brew it for real, in labs all over the world.
You've got major thinkers like Yuval Noah Harari who are looking at this in a very modern way. He basically says, look, death isn't some great spiritual mystery anymore. It's a technical problem. And technical problems? Well, they have technical solutions.
And don't get it twisted, this is dead serious. We're not talking about some fringe science experiment in a basement. We're talking billions of dollars are being poured into longevity research and AI with the direct goal of making humans live longer, maybe forever. The money is there. The desire is definitely there.
And that leads us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. The tech is moving at lightning speed, but what about us? We've seen the philosophical traps and the spiritual hurdles. As a species, are we even remotely ready for this?
People have been sounding the alarm for centuries. Kierkegaard worried that an eternal life with no real purpose would just be an endless, agonizing despair. The philosopher Samuel Shuffler made this brilliant point that our limited time, he called it temporal scarcity, is exactly what makes life meaningful. It forces us to make choices, to care about things. You take away that ultimate deadline and our whole value system might just fall apart. And as John Lennox points out, our technology is just moving way faster than our ability to think through the consequences.
C.S. Lewis might have put it best decades ago with this chilling line: man's final conquest has proved to be the abolition of man. What he's saying is that in our rush to conquer death, our last enemy, we might accidentally destroy the very things that make us human in the first place.
So, we end up right back where we started. But the stakes aren't imaginary anymore. The choice is coming, and how it turns out will depend entirely on how we choose to perceive it. The road to immortality is splitting. One path leads to some kind of transcendence, a higher way of being. The other, well, it leads to that empty, endless hunger. So the question for every single one of us is, which path will we take? Are we about to become gods, or are we about to become a void?